In this lecture, I'd like to consider a very simple question. In this unit, we are examining the fact that humans are Earthshapers. So we are changing the planet, perhaps in very fundamental ways. So the question I'd like to address is, does that matter? You might already feel very strongly about that and you think it does matter, but what I'd like to understand is why it matters. What is it about Earth shaping that is very important? We live on Earth, and Earth is vitally important to us. It's our home. It's the place we live. All of our resources, apart from the sun's energy, is drawn from this planet. So I want to in order to understand the importance of this question, if we're changing the planet in fundamental ways, why does that matter? I'd like to step back a little and think in terms of a much larger perspective, if you like. So let's think about the universe. The universe has existed for 13.5 billion years, and over that time, solar systems have formed, suns have come and gone. Let's think about that process in the context of this question. What matters about the fact that humans are Earthshapers? So, as you may already know, suns form in nebula. Nebula are gas clouds, and one of the very famous images that exists in cosmology is the image of the so-called pillars of creation. These exist within the Eagle Nebula, and it's said that inside these massive gas clouds, suns form and solar systems form as a result of those gases coming together. Gravity working inside the matter inside these gas clouds slowly forces matter to coalesce, and as a result of the interaction between the mass and gravitational forces, those coalescing bodies of matter start to rotate. Here is a protoplanetary disk. The sun is at the center of the disk, but you can see the disk has various levels of density, and it's those variations in density that lead to the creation of planets as these protoplanetary disks develop over time. This is happening all over the universe in many, many different galaxies, but our sun is something we're very familiar with, and of course our sun is the source of our solar system, and that protoplanetary disk formed planets, and of course we know those planets today. Earth, of course, is the planet that we have evolved on. It's the only planet that we know has life on it. So from a very straightforward point of view, Earth matters to us because we live here and we draw the resources we need from this planet. So let's just take a moment to reflect upon the nature of Earth. It's the only planet that we know has life on it. It's a very rich ecosystem, many, many different types of ecosystem with different types of life flourishing in different ways. But it's not the only planet that exists in our ecosystem. There are other planets. Here's Venus. Venus is a very different planet. Doesn't have the rich ecosystems of life on it that we know at Earth. So the universe is very big, and there are presumably many planets. There may be other planets with life on them. So when we turn our attention to the question of humans shaping the Earth, perhaps in very profound ways, let's reflect upon that question in the context of asking, does it matter? And in order to try and get our heads around this, I invite you to think about a thought experiment. Now, a thought experiment is a way philosophers try and uncover beliefs, ideas, intuitions about certain philosophical questions. So let's have a look at this thought experiment. Suppose that Fred is the last sentient creature on the planet, and he knows that for whatever reason, sentient life will never again appear on this planet. Just before exiting the scene, Fred destroys all of the planet's geology and biology. What he destroys is of great beauty and majesty, but he defends his action by saying that it doesn't matter, since it will never again be appreciated or valued by anyone. Do we accept Fred's justification, or do we think that what he did was wrong? So remember, this is a thought experiment. We don't have to worry about the details of how Fred destroyed the planet. What we're trying to uncover are intuitions, your own intuitions about how you feel about what Fred just did. And what we do in a thought experiment is to accept the thought experiment as it's presented and then reflect upon our responses. We don't sort of say, well, that's ridiculous, that could never happen. The whole point of a thought experiment is simply to uncover your thoughts and feelings about the thought experiment as explained. So think about that for a moment. Think about Fred acting the way he did, Fred offering the justification about sentient organisms. Now, do you think Fred did anything wrong? That's another way of addressing the question about Earth shaping. It's quite a radical form of Earth shaping, but it's addressing the question, does Earth shaping or humans' impact on the planet matter? And if it does matter, why does it matter? Now, here's Earth, let's say, before Fred does his thing, and here's, let's imagine that the image of Venus is what Earth looks like after Fred's done his thing. Has Fred done anything wrong? Now, the central point here is that Fred has stipulated, as is stipulated in the thought experiment, there's no sentient life after Fred destroys the planet, and he knows, however he knows it, that no sentient being will ever exist on this planet again. So notice the interesting point trying to be uncovered here is how you feel about the role of sentient life in the question. Imagine that sentient life was needing this planet for sustaining its life. The idea here is that that would matter because sentient beings needed that planet. But the point of the thought experiment is, what about if there were no sentient beings? Would Fred have done anything wrong? Because there's plenty of life that's non-sentient. And one of the questions I'd encourage you to think about during this course is the importance or the centrality of sentience when it comes to the question of, does it matter how humans impact on the planet?